So it's like that. You don't have any like small parties that pop up here and there. Like, we in Uruguay, where you guys, I'm from, sometimes there are these new ones, like last
Mhm.
session we had a new one that was digital party. Their whole idea was that they want to create a platform where you can go and vote and learn about the laws and all the different propositions they had. And of course, being the nerd that I am, I had to go and vote them. Me and I think less than 1% of the people. But I'm sure you guys know you
We have
get two choices.
So it gets different into the local jurisdictions, but even at the president's level, there'll be like 6 people on the ballot. And it'll be like the Green Party. If you actually get on the ballot and become a party, I believe you're kind of on the ballot. So like over the years, there's been people, um, the Green Party is one of them. I remember Ross Perot had a good run.
Yeah, I was about to say he's the one that comes to mind. I don't even think we could vote yet, but he's the one that comes to mind that actually, like, potentially, like, could have thought he might have a chance of winning, but I think these days they generally don't pull enough voters from like one party or the other, and so they end up like starting, and then maybe they have some like decent runway, but then they realize like, okay, well, I like the Republican Party more if I had to choose between the two, and I'm pulling votes from them. So like, if I do that, then like they're likely going to lose, and so they basically end up like endorsing them.
Or the party gets reinvented from the inside out, which, and some people would say, what's happened to both the Democratic and the Republican parties. If you saw the old Democratic and Republican parties from, say, the 60s or even the 80s, they probably wouldn't recognize the platforms and what they believe today. I think they just evolved from the inside, primarily based off what their base thinks.
You say evolve or erode? I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Evolve or erode. Yeah, those are two very different words. I'll let other people be the judge of that. But for this, we're going to be talking a little bit about politics today, but we're going to be putting an AI spin on it because Adam and I have been working on, for the past month, I actually did a full live stream on setting up the basis of it for a weekend for a product called VoterSiteKick. And really, it's an open source platform that we developed that enables you to really research and do your own research based off of the actual laws, the actual policies that have been proposed. And we launched it yesterday with just a few things in it. So we have the Hot and Contentious Project 2025 PDF. It's 922 pages long. So for instance, you can come in here and you can simply just ask. So for instance, does this Project 2025 argue for outline of porn and severe penalties for its distribution? This is something that, it doesn't say that. And it directly quotes it. Pornography should be outlawed. The people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as sex offenders. And telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate its spread should be shuttered. And this is on page 5. One of the nice things is that you can actually go in here, you can actually view the different excerpts from the PDF. As you go through these, you can actually see this. But one of the nice things is what implications does that have in the follow-up question? So down here at the bottom, you could talk about, how does it compare to current laws? You could say, what are the main arguments for it? And what are the potential implications for classifying educators and public librarians? So you can kind of go in here, do your own research, and it gives you follow-up questions. And we have this for Prop 2025, the immigration bill that was proposed to reform it. Both candidates for president, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, their official policies, so you can see what they actually say. And healthcare is a big issue here, so the current Obamacare Act. But today I thought it would be fun to go through, and I have not done any of my research yet for California. So in California, we are given one of these giant books. It's 143 pages long. So instead of that, we're going to go through here prop by prop and just ask questions. So anything you want to add to that, Adam, before we jump in?
I read it actually already. I memorized the whole thing.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, then we'll play a little game of I'll hide the screen and we'll ask Adam and see what he says about it.
Let me pull up my notes here in the VoterSiteKick.
All right. So the first one that we're going to reference today is Prop 2. So as we can see here, we have some starter ones, but I can also just type it. I want to research Prop 2.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off real quick before we continue. And just for our friends that are not in the US, I have some friends of mine watching this from Uruguay as well. Can you talk a little bit more about this guidebook? What it's for? Is just trying to teach you about the different voting you can do? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in California, we vote on a lot. We vote for, not just, president and Congress, which is more on the federal level, but at the state level, you not only vote for your legislators, so the people that make the laws, you vote for your governors, but you also vote for your local city council, you vote for your local superintendent for your schools. Like there's lots of different people you've never heard of, right? That are just there. And basically this voter guidebook, but the other thing that that you vote for, not just people, but you vote on propositions. So every year there are a number of propositions, and based off of yours, so you have your state level propositions. These are state mandated things. So basically, for instance, the summary for Prop 2 says, and I can actually just view this right here, and this is what it looks like in the PDF. So the problem is that, when you look at these summaries,
you can only see your the VoterSidekick. So you guys, let me see if I got this. You guys vote on many propositions. This comes to, just real quick question, do you vote all of this at the same time, or is this something that will play out throughout the year and then you kind of know what to vote?
Yeah, so we vote in, so it used to be one day. It says in the Constitution, it's the first Tuesday in November. There shall be a vote. But depending on what area you live on in the country, they try to restrict or expand that. In California, they try to expand it as much as possible. So you can actually, mail in. California is one of the first to allow mail-in ballots. So you just, fill it out, put it in, so you can sit down and make the choice. I still like the going in and doing it. Just doing that. We don't have long lines here, but in a lot of states where they've actually reduced polling places, and that's the only way. They can only do it on a Tuesday. They can only do it miles away. So those are some of the ways that in the States, it is either, by mail-in, over time. So for instance, I could have gone and voted over the past, I think, 2 weeks. But for these, yes, it's once a year where we kind of go and vote. And it's usually presidential years that they wait for these propositions, kind of the bigger ones, the ones that they know they're going to get a lot of turnout, because, next year there's not going to be a high turnout because you're voting on third lieutenant supervisor for whatever, right? So,
So at the same
which
time, you're in
is very important too. What?
So at the same time, you're going and voting for. Sorry, there's a little bit of delay, I think. But just to like completely understand this, you go and vote one day. You vote for whoever you choose to be the president, and you also include this list of props with all the different selections you do. So you're supposed to like handle everything together.
I don't know where my ballot is, right? But I mean, the ballot is huge. I mean, there's just so many things you have to check off. I mean, for it, it's like everyone goes in there and then president. And usually what happens is everyone's so focused on the presidential or maybe the Senate if it's a hot Senate debate, right? Like, you know, in certain states, it's not even like, for instance, because you do something called the Electoral College. Like, really, my vote for president means absolutely nothing, right? Because we know California is going to go for Kamala Harris, right? We know that, you know, certain states are going to go for Donald Trump. So really, it's like 5 states make up that decision, which I'm not going to go into the whole that piece, but my reason for doing this is because there's so many more things at the local level that actually affect your day-to-day life outside of the circus that is, you know, American politics at this point, that just don't, because a lot of people go in like, oh, I'm going to vote for my team red or my team blue, and then they get hit with this ballot and they're like, what the hell is all this, right? Like, they may have seen
being proposed.
Right. And if you're someone like me who basically pays so you to get 0 ads, like, I don't have constant ads being shown, but like people that have like, you know, regular television, stuff like that, they're being inundated with Prop 2. I mean, experts say this will, you know, be the worst thing for California. Experts say it'll be the best thing for California. And then when you get into the ballot box, what you end up seeing is something that looks like this. And you basically get this. So for instance, Prop 2, the first one we're going to do, a perfect example of this. It will authorize $10 billion in general obligation bonds for repair, upgrade, and construction of facilities at K through 12 public schools, including charter schools, community colleges, and career technical education programs, including the improvements of healthy and safety conditions and classroom upgrades. Requires additional audits, and it'll give you the financial impact. Will increase the state costs by about $500 million annually for 35 years to repay the bond, meaning we're borrowing money. So a lot of people don't even understand what that means. Yes, it's like, hey, here's another credit card. We just added $500 million to our budget, and it's all done with, you know, hey, improve our schools. Of course, everyone wants improved schools. And it says a yes vote on and this is where sometimes too, it gets really weird. Sometimes it's like a yes vote means no on the yes of the no. It's like, wait, what? You'll see some of those. Like for instance, I remember it was Prop 8. I think it was like the vote on gay marriage. It was like a vote for no was a vote for Prop marriage. It's just the way that it was like structured, made it even confusing at the ballot box. So there's a lot of actual legal proceedings that actually go into what this summary is and what the yes and no vote says. And all of that is part of this. This is just the quick reference. So it says yes and no. And then if you go down to page, let's see. Where it is, Prop 2. 14. So then it goes into the details, right? Here's the summary. Here's this. Here's how it's paid, the background, the proposal, the budgets, all of this stuff continued, the fiscal effects, the arguments. This is the argument in favor of it. Here's all of these arguments. Here's all the rebuttals. All of this is there for you, but this is 144 pages of information, right? Like, I mean, not every voter is going to do this, and it's for every single one of these. I mean, it's just, and then you have your candidate statements and what they believe on. So you walk in and it's like, great, I have a paragraph on this guy, right? I don't know who they are. Then you get down to at the end of it where it's the actual laws that say, here are the text of the actual proposed laws. So it's like you have the summary, you have the rough arguments for it and against it, and kind of a more extended summary, and then you have the actual laws that would go into place to say how these funds will be audited, how this will be done, how this will be actually put into law when it is approved or not, which is the most important thing, because that is what ultimately ends up governing us. Not the ad, not the summary, not what you thought it was going to do, but the actual law. And I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to pay a lawyer to read through all this to tell me. So we're going to ask VoterSidekick. So I want to research Prop 10 and what this is all about. Let's just start with something simple.
Yeah, that was the easy one.
So this is where it can go in here. So what are the main arguments for and against? So I can go here, click on go where are the main arguments for and against. So this is to recap, to give $10 billion in bonds to make our schools better. So, go here, and then you can just do your own research. So are there any questions that either of you have about this?
Yeah. Are they accompanied with what are they going to be spent on?
Like some accountability measures?
Yeah, like
How about that? That's number 2, this one right here. How do the financial accountability measure ensure that the taxpayer money is used effectively? So, public disclosure and audits. The proposition requires public disclosure. Oh, great. More documents that you have to read. This is another reason the devil's in the details. Independent financial. So who are the independents? Limit on administrative costs. There are strict limits on the administrative costs. That's good. And local control.
I like that.
So
Tells you the source. It's not the same, reading a description from the argument against or in favor.
Mm-hmm.
Super good that you get to see where it's coming from. So I guess local control and oversight, it is in favor. Would you agree?
I think it depends. I think local control and oversight is absolutely needed. I think the question I would have is, how are the local people responsible
Who controls
for oversight, picked? Because if it's just like the mayor and all of his cronies, this is how we get crony capitalism, right? Where it's just all of this then goes to contractors that are then in bed with the politicians. I mean, if you really look at the budget and where that's 27 trillion or whatever, this 500 million, most of this isn't going to government workers. These are going to contractors that have contracts with the government. And who picks those contracts? These are the people that pick them. So the specific process is responsible and local. It is not detailed in the provided. However, typically local oversights are formed according to district policies and state regulations. So this is where you could go in and you could find your own local jurisdiction. Yeah. I want to ask one more question. We'll move on to the next one. How is it decided how the funds are distributed between local areas? It's basically like, hey, is LA and San Francisco just going to get it all? Or is it going to go more towards, is it going to be like based off of who actually needs it? Is it going to go more to public schools? Is it just going to be equally discrete between the rich schools and the not so well off schools? So there has to be an application for approval process. So there's an applicant. So this is also too, for instance, where there's an old saying that says every new law creates a new business. If you're thinking about new businesses to help with this, guess what? There's going to have to be schools that will be applying for these funds. So how do you make it easy for schools to do it so that they get applied for it? There's a business right there. Sets asides for specific needs. So a small portion of funds for new construction and renovation is specifically set aside for small districts, okay, community colleges, and increase share for certain districts with lowered assessment property values and higher proportions of lower income students, English learners, meaning these districts receive a larger share of state funding. So it does have baked in there that it's going to go based off of, it looks like assessed property value and proportion of higher and low income students. So, yeah. All right, let's go right down the list. This was the only one that I knew something about because all right. What is Prop 3 all about? And it's thinking. All right, so this is about the constitutional amendment related to marriage in California. It seeks to remove outdated language that specifies marriage can only be between a man and a woman. And this change aligns with the federal court's decisions that affirm the right of same-sex couples to marry. Wait, didn't we vote on this in 2016? How is this different?
Let's ask it. Yeah, I've totally heard you guys have legalized that. So how is it different?
Yeah, I think it was it was 2008 because I remember it was when Obama. Okay, so it does it in several key ways. So the purpose of Prop 8 was a ballot initiative that sought to amend the Constitution to define marriage strictly on a union between. It effectively banned. Oh, okay, it was overturned. Huh. Was it Prop 8? I thought same sex. Maybe it just, I thought that we had already updated the Constitution. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe, yes, it is legal recognition, 15 U.S. support. Oh, it was a U.S. Supreme Court decision, actually. And then Prop 3 is primarily about updating the language for this. All right. Learn something new.
That makes sense. To make it easier for future people not to have to go back to when it was ruled, right? Now it's just in the Constitution. Any lawyer, any judge will see it.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm learning.
Yeah, and that's kind of the highest level of laws, and ours is like, hey, when you update the Constitution, whether that be at the federal level or at the state level, it's like, hey, this is like, what all other future decisions in courts, all other laws have to follow this. They can't break one of those laws. You can't pass a law unless you do another amendment. So, all right.
So if we try to chat and like take a different approach, like, so it's like when we ask something like which propositions are related to like property taxes.
Let's say are related to technology, or do you want to do property tax?
Either one, just something, some subject, because there's so many of these. People will probably scan and be like, but I'm guessing that there's certain topics that a lot of people like really interested in.
Yeah.
Oh,
so what props? There aren't any that were actually for technology. It said something about the schools are related to property taxes. Okay, Prop 33. This proposition relates to local government's authority to enact rent control on residential property. And then Proposition 5 is a legislative constitutional amendment that allows local bonds for affordable housing and public infrastructure to be approved with 55% voter approval instead of the current 2/3 requirement. Interesting. It allows local governments to assess property taxes above 1% to repay these bonds if approved by the reduced voter threshold. Huh? Should we ask one of these follow-up questions? The follow-up questions are, what specific changes does Prop 33 propose regarding rent control? How does Prop 5 change the voter approval requirements for local bonds? And can you explain how these propositions might impact local government revenues? Which one should we choose? All right. All right. How much? How does Prop 5 change the voter approval requirements for local bonds? So, change the voter approval requirements for certain local government general obligation bonds. Explain this to me like I'm 5. This is the other thing is that like what do you mean by some of these things? So sure, imagine your town wants to build a new playground or fix the roads, but they don't have enough money right now. They can ask people who live there to help pay for it by collecting a little bit more from everyone's allowance, sort of like a piggy bank. Before, a lot of people had to agree, almost everyone had to say yes, to use this extra allowance money. But now, because of something called Proposition 5, fewer people need to agree, just a bit more than half for it to happen. That means it's a bit easier for your town to get money they need to make things better. Does this also make it easier to waste money? Oh, it does provide several measures to prevent the misuse and waste of money. To follow specific accountability steps, they must conduct annual independent financial and performance audits to ensure the money is being spent as promised. And this is the other statement that I always see. Independent financial and performance audits. That's a business. That's an entire consultancy. It's hired in to write a report. So just the cost of doing this is where it just, yeah.
Costs money. And you have to hope that these people that are doing this are being honest, not say they're getting bribed or anything like that, but how independent do they end up being in the long run? What kind of conflicts of interest are there? Who's checking on that? That's kind of goes for anything.
One of the things that I think that was interesting, or I want to ask is, what are the propositions with the least amount of financial, and if I could spell correctly, Prop 2 has, it does not detail specific for this proposition. Prop 4 involves bonds for safe drinking water, wildlife prevention, and climate risk. It requires regular public reporting on how much bond money is spent, but the detailed mechanisms of oversight are not extensively covered in the provided context. And Prop 5 permits local bonds, and it requires significant oversight activities. So Prop 5 has the most detailed financial oversight, so that's good, at least if they're looking to lower the ability to spend the money than having the tightest. Prop 2 and 4, and this is what it is, like, make our schools better, and it has the least amount of oversight.
So this is a good question for this, so you're kind of asking in a way, like a double negative almost. It's like, if you're doing a search for financial oversight, let's just say like an old school vanilla search, the words financial oversight and financial are going to come up, but the least, like, is now you have to compare everything to each other. So you'd have to go look at every single prop individually, then rate it on some, level. Be like, okay, well, this one seems to have a high amount, this one has a low amount, this one is not mentioned at all, but maybe it's also not like applicable to that prop. Maybe it just doesn't factor in for some reason. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think this is a hard question to answer. Because there's more than 5 props, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where the follow-up questions really come in play, is like, okay, well, Prop 2, it says it was the least. Because I do remember seeing that, and this is a good point, is like, okay, maybe it wasn't in that context window, because I just did realize that it's only getting 4 pages of that, and it got 3 of them back. So this is where, how do the oversight requirements, or what are the specific financial oversight mechanisms outlined in the full text of Prop 2, right? So then you could click on this question here and then say, okay, here are the actual full ones, and it's only going to get back those. So public hearings, requirements for districts, which even asking that is like, dude, like, there's not a lot of oversight in this one.
Yeah, no, totally. Even missing a lot of text still, like just reading it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a better question from my point of view. I'm regular Joe. I want to understand how this affects me and my community.
Well, then maybe we should talk about, maybe we should basically go over to the different candidates for president, because a lot of people and a lot of, there's been lots of people that said they would actually rather vote in the U.S. election than their own election overseas, because they feel that election has more of an impact on their lives than even sometimes their own. So let's move over to the different candidates. So this is where side-by-side comparison, Adam, would really be nice, is we could actually, like, you could have the platforms of 2 candidates where you could have it. So I'm going to create my own little version of that side-by-side. I'm just going to pull up 2 different chat bots, and we'll ask each one of them the same questions to see how different each of the candidates are. So let me just... Gone are the days when you could say that, oh, it doesn't matter who I vote for, they're both the same anyway. That is further from the truth. in every single way. And we'll see that. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this because I can't just share just a section of my, so I'm just going to have to go here. All right, we'll open up this tab for Trump, and we'll open up a tab here. That would be a really good feature to kind of put these side by side.
We're seeing
all right.
Riverside.
Cool. Well, now you can see that infinite.
Yeah. Was that Leonardo?
Infinite mirror.
What was that movie called? He was in Leonardo DiCaprio.
Inception. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So in one side, we have on one side we have Donald Trump. On one side we have Kamala Harris. So I'm going to say what? Let's start with what are the views on immigration? We're going to ask the same question to both of these. Interesting. Are we sure about that? Her platform does not cover. This is the one that was downloaded from her. So in here, we have cut the taxes, section 2, affordable, and a conclusion. So this is all about her economic policies only. I'm going to have to update that because I believe but this was the only one that was actually linked off to the website. Download the PDF. Yeah, this is the one. She does not have any platform on immigration. Wow. Okay, it wasn't a hallucination. I was just checking to make sure it wasn't a hallucination, but that is correct. I have a feeling I'm going to see something different on yes. So with Trump, secure the border, enforce immigration laws, deportation. There's a commitment to begin what is described as the largest deportation program in history. How or what does it say specific? How the deportation will be executed and funded? The provided documents don't delve into specific details about how it will be executed and funded. The documents do outline a commitment to begin the largest deportation and reverse the open border policies attributed to Democrats, but they do not provide specifics on execution or funding. So here, this is where you can also go. You could view the source. Theirs has even less details. It has 16 pages, but this isn't even Trump's platform. This is actually the RNC's platform. On his website, when you click on platform, he has 20 bullet points. So it doesn't take an AI to read all of those because that's what you would probably get from an AI anyway. Those 20 bullet points. It clicks off to this PDF, which is what this is based off of. So with both of these plans, if it says it doesn't have it in there, it means they haven't put it on their website. What other questions should we add?
May I make the obvious question?
Please.
What are the views on AI?
Very yes. What? I don't think either one of those are your views on technology and AI. I don't have personal views, but based off the context of the official league and proposals related to this, according to this, the Republican Party supports AI development that is rooted in free speech and human flourishing. And they propose repealing what they describe as Joe Biden's dangerous executive order that hinders AI innovation. This document emphasizes a desire to foster innovation and reduce government restrictions on AI development under their policy framework. So I guess a follow-up question would be, what's this executive order? Yeah, it wouldn't be put in there of what that is. So I think that would be a good one to find out and add that to its context. So this was built in a way to only use the context, which their policies are pretty light. Let's ask Kamala's.
Kamala's using WordPress.
Yeah, she saw that. I was like, oh no. All right. So, according to the documents provided, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz emphasized the importance of strengthening America's competitive edge in the field of technology and artificial intelligence. They proposed substantial investments in research and development to ensure the United States leads in AI innovation. For instance, they propose a historic investment to shore up our national economic security by making sure that the United States, not China, leads in AI by scaling up and making permanent the National Artificial Intelligence Research Resource. Okay, what's that? Hadn't heard of that. The initiative aims to provide startups and researchers with access to advanced computing, data, and analytical tools. Additionally, the plan includes commitments from the 2023 AI Executive Order to foster innovation, protect workers and consumers, and develop a skilled federal AI workforce that is part of a border strategy to jumpstart a new era in American industry with a focus on both traditional industries and emerging technologies critical for the future of competitiveness. So I think Trump wants to repeal any executive order that Joe Biden did. Kamala wants to build off of this. So I think that after this podcast, I'm going to be pulling in the PDF of what this executive order is and adding it to the VoterSidekick because I am curious what that is, because, anything that, calls for slowdown or censorship, I'd be less, inclined to, support anything that fosters distributed open source and, free and publicly supported. I will absolutely get behind. So yeah, good question, Max.
It's interesting, even if it doesn't know, it is giving you some pointers to where you can make more research. Is that something that you added, or why is that?
Yeah, so in that, and maybe we can kind of just go over how these are set up now. That's a good kind of now segue, because all of these are actually available in Answer AI, as well as, and I put them in the, and we can kind of go over the prompting of how it is, because as we know, AI can still make things up. I even put the little disclaimer in there. I mean, it's still a debate on whether or not AI makes up more things or politicians and the media make up more things. So all depends on how you're getting this source sent to you, who you trust more. I know what I trust more. But when I go in here and I look at these, so for instance, here I have them all. They're all individual sidekicks. So the first thing that I did when I set this up was created a document store for each of these. So for instance, I might go in and see if if there's anything around Kamala's other things. I try to keep it to just the platform. I was going to put in all their stump speeches and all that stuff. And if people are interested, please let me know. I can grab them. They all have them on YouTube. So I think that would be interesting, but it's sometimes, with this tool, I may want to actually put those as separate, hey, this is what they say in their platform or in laws versus what they're telling their audience, on the, in their speeches. That would be interesting to see the difference. So it's not all combined. But each of these is basically for instance, the California voter book. When you go in here, these are all, chunked up. So that was the first part. It's also using an upsert config as well too, so that as I add new documents, they'll be added. So we have the 4 documents that we have here, and all of them really just have the PDF. So as you can see, this has 906 pages for the Affordable Care Act and everything. And then to make the actual sidekicks, and anyone can go in here, you sign up for an Answer AI account for free and create your own sidekick using these same templates, and submit it on VoterSiteKick. So if you go to VoterSiteKick and what? Did I spell it right? Okay, I'll go back to that here in a second. But you can click on any one of these. So for instance, if I look at the Kamala Harris, all of these follow the same basic area or the same basic setup. So we're using OpenAI, and that's another enhancement I want to do. I want to be able to show the responses between different AIs. What is it with Llama or OpenAI or Claude or Twitter's Grok, right? Hey, Elon, you say you're going to try to make the most truth-seeking machine. Put it to the test. See how accurate it is. Looking at the actual documents, not Twitter. And then these all have 2 prompts in them. So we're using a conversational train. And really, it starts with a rephrase prompt. And I kind of gave a lot of this in the 60 days to automate challenge on day 2, kind of how this works and how this is set up as well. But a quick way that it works is it first takes the user's question and the chat history, and then it rephrases their question so it can get the most relevant documents, right? So if I'm tell me about prop 2, and then I say then on the follow-up question, what about financial responsibilities? It knows it's going to rephrase it to, what are the financial responsibilities for prop 2? So taking your initial input and rephrasing it so that it gets the most relevant documentation and some guidelines around that. That's then what's sent out to get the most relevant documents here. But then we have the response prompt, and this is where I'm probably going to continue to iterate on this, but these are all open source as well too. That's why it's very important, because if you ask, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Claude, any of these, they're going to give you, don't ask me about politics, right? I don't know. And honestly, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to ask this to, give me, what are your thoughts on this? I think there's that viral video going over, who should I vote for? Or should I vote for Kamala versus should I vote for Trump? And for Trump, it's I can't give opinions. But for Kamala, it was straight up, here are all the reasons why. That was interesting. But so it's very important to understand what these system prompts, these things that are saying what it can and can't say, are important. So here, I'm trying to tell it to always cite specific pages or sections. You mentioned earlier, Max, it's citing, where it's actually getting that information to help the user. present policy details without advocacy or criticism. You get enough of that on our news media, everywhere else. This isn't the place for that. I thought about actually making like a little personality to it, like talk to me like it's Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow, so it could still give you facts, but in the tone that you want it. If the information isn't in the document, clearly state that limitation. And this just goes into basic prompting, just telling the AI not to do it, giving it the okay to not make something up greatly reduces hallucinations. Like, hey, it's not in here at all. And we saw that a couple of times with like, there's nothing in here about immigration. I had to go check. And I'm like, oh yeah, there is nothing in here about immigration. Focus on concrete numbers, specific proposals, and stated goals. Once again, don't make things up. Provide relevant context from the document when needed. So, hey, these are quotes. Avoid speculations about policy incomes. Never make voting recommendations. Present multiple aspects of policies when available to show like, hey, here are the arguments for, here are the arguments against, if it has that information in there. Maintain professional, factual tone, and if the users ask about topics not covered, redirect to what is in the document, being like, hey, I'm glad you asked me that, but this is what I can answer your questions on. And then a little bit about, use direct quotes when appropriate and how it wants to be formatted. And then I always say, hey, after each response, I do this to all my prompts, just suggest 2 to 3 relevant follow-up questions, follow-up actions. In this case, it's questions to really focus on other factual aspects of the policy to really encourage curiosity. And these are all, so if I go into them, I guess I'll stop there. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's great. The, like all those directions, like I see that a lot and prompts just seen on the web or, trying to generate my own, just like stay factual, stay on topic, don't make stuff up, but yeah, and the 3 questions is great. I know for the VoterSidekick, we built that in so that it, makes them actionable, like really easily. So people don't like copy and paste or like try to retype it in. But I think it keeps the conversation going, which is awesome.
Yeah, how we did the so with the so with each of these, they all follow the same guidelines. We're just changing like what it's about, and whether it's a law or a policy. And I'm probably playing around with that. I could probably even make that even so it's just one with just different variables for the type of PDF. Is it a policy? Is it a law, a proposal? Is it a law? Is it a statement? Whatever that is. Then we have these VoterSidekick follow-up questions. So this actually powers that, what Adam was just talking about, where it's just a simple prompt and we can even engage on this, is like you help create follow-up questions to help engage curiosity and to help user research and get relevant documents. Always respond in JSON, which if you're wondering what JSON is, come to the 60 Days to Automate Challenge and you'll learn all about it. So,
quick plug,
always. Cool. So, I think that's it for today. So if you haven't already, go out and vote, and also stay tuned with VoterSiteKick, because also after the election, we know that no matter which side loses, it's probably going to be contested, and you're going to want to have access to all the legal documents, all of the things that are said in court, where it actually matters, not necessarily out of court or in the media where it doesn't matter. So we're going to be building a volunteer base to help keep this up to date so that you can do your own research. You can actually see what the law says in those individual states about election laws, what the different lawyers are arguing. We all know that this is going to be a pretty bumpy ride over the next couple months, but we hope with VoterSidekick can help you just look at the documents and make your own decisions. It's not about telling you who to vote for or what to do, but just that you have the actual unbiased information based off the things that are written on the paper that actually govern us, not the media and everything else that tries to influence our perception. So with that, till next time. Bye.
Bye.